Good morning, everybody. Okay,
Live.
we are live on One Hood Media and Creative Morning Pittsburgh platforms. This is a Creative Mornings event, but in a minute we're having a One Hood takeover, so you won't hear much more from me. But I just wanted to welcome everybody back to Creative Mornings. We've taken a nap for a while. For first timers, Creative Mornings is a breakfast and lecture series. We've been doing this for 5, 6, 7 years. But we're part of what's happening around the world. 219 cities do this thing on a monthly basis on generally the final Friday of a month. But when COVID happened, everything changed. Creative Mornings is dedicated to this idea that everyone's creative and that a creative life requires bravery and action, honesty, and hard work. We're here to support you, celebrate you, and encourage you to make the things you love. Creative Mornings believes in the power of community, believes in giving a damn. We believe in face-to-face connection, so this has been a really fucking difficult time. We believe in hugs and high fives. We're here to support you. We bring together people who are driven by passion and purpose, confident that they will inspire one another and inspire change in the neighborhood and cities around the world, and everyone's welcome. So, just a quick shout out to a couple of the global partners that make Creative Mornings possible, which is MailChimp and Basecamp. At the beginning of COVID-19, we started going virtual. These events used to happen face-to-face, but we got tired as hell. We also sort of fell out of step because we were like thrown off. There was no opportunity for getting together for hugs and high fives, and when you can't touch, it's kind of hard to hug. COVID also had us tripping because we weren't really set up to make this work in the digital world, and so we stopped having events. And then the killings of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor edged their way into the national psyche that was possessed by the pandemic, and there was a break in the headlines about the never-ending shelter-in-place issues that were disproportionately impacting racial and ethnic minority communities, the rising xenophobia against Asian Americans, disease and death accruing at faster rates in Black and brown communities. It's like the same fucking song, or was it? And so the loss of lives of George and Breonna extended this really long legacy of violence in a nation that's already steeped in white supremacy. And it was like a thriving racist system was experiencing this burgeoning of new kinds of racist actors. It was fuel for Black Lives Matter. And fire got hot, and a lot of new communities woke up to old realities. And it's 2020, and the United States has a presidential election coming up in 4 days. And so every month we get these themes from Creative Mornings headquarters. And really these themes are just frames for truths. This month's theme is transit. And we wondered, what are the truths of transit in the city of Pittsburgh? And really that's our only function as Creative Mornings. It's to ask that question, how can we explain hidden truths? Maybe One Hood could help us with this. Maybe One Hood could unearth the truths of transit in Pittsburgh during a global pandemic in the course of a racial uprising 4 days before the election, when we're all tired as fuck and have very little to high five about and are desperately missing hugs. For the last 2 years, One Hood has infused our monthly Creative Mornings events with artistry, activism. They've been elevating our senses and our social conscience. You all know One Hood. Many of you are tuning into One Hood's channel, so I don't need to tell you more about them. They can do that. I'm just really pleased to welcome Jasiri, Farouk, Shaheem, and Miracle for performances and a discussion on this month's theme of transit, the experience of navigating Pittsburgh while Black.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Nathan. That was deep. That was actually a really dope intro. So thank you for that. Yeah. So good morning, everybody. This is really kind of like, this week in white supremacy part 2. That's kind of like how we moving it. You get me? But as Nathan said, I'm Farouk Al-Saeed. I got Jasiri X, Treble NLS, and Miracle Jones, the Whip and the Wop. And we're here to talk about, kind of this transit experience, about what it's like to be Black in Pittsburgh right now. And we were just kind of having we're going to have like an authentic dialogue just about the concept of transit and how it affects us right now in this climate, with politics, with the election, with pandemic and how everything is just really adversely affecting Black people. And yeah, it's just, you know, we're just going to talk to you a lot this morning, and you know, we're gonna throw a little bit of music in there from this really dope MC called Saeed, who's nice, like super nice. Don't give me that, bro.
He's a weak boomer, you know what I'm saying? Trash can.
Listen.
Are we gonna start
that
with
again?
Are we gonna start with the performance?
Yeah, we'll actually start with this because I think that'll set it off. So John, if you could throw out Hood Visa for us, man, and then, you know, for your listening pleasure, we're gonna set up the conversation with a record right now.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe.
Here we go.
There you go.
Y'all hilarious. Good morning, everyone. Hope everyone has their coffee, tea, did their morning meditation.
All right, we don't hear it. Somebody's You want to do this live, bro? You want to lip sync?
You're muted, Farouk.
Look, what you trying to?
Yeah, I don't know what happened, but you know, we'll make it work. You know,
I don't know. Did you want to do a cappella? I don't know.
No, I don't. I don't really feel like doing it. I don't actually. Yeah, I'm too tired for that. But nah, I mean, we can just start the dialogue and then figure out how it goes. So, like, the concept is transit, and I think that when people hear the idea of transit, you think of getting from one location to another or a destination-based practice. And us as Black people, there's always this metaphor for how we're going to navigate and how we're going to be able to get through our daily lives and just be able to navigate the world, where it's not as simple for us to just go from A to B. We have to take so many detours just to get to certain spots. And everybody in this conversation right now, all four of us, have the shared experience of being Black, but none of us have the shared experiences of the other person. And I always say Blackness is universal, but our experiences aren't. And as we kind of traverse this thing called life, each one of us has kind of ended up in a specific part of Pittsburgh that allowed us to all coalesce and exist together. But none of the experiences were the same. They may have run parallel and they might have intersected at some point. But, you know, right now, we're just going to kind of talk about the climate and what it's like. And I kind of just want to ask, like, Miracle right now, as someone who, you know, has kind of emerged for us as this voice and like the soup du jour for like all things political and legal. What are we looking at in terms of Black voters, Black voter suppression, you know, this era right now? How's this looking?
It's looking a little 1950-ish, if I could, you know, be honest. It's giving a little, you know, throwback. What we're seeing is voter suppression on a whole different level. There are lawsuits every single day to restrict the vote. There are reduction in the number of polling places. I know in the South, they said, according to a Reuters article, at least 11,000 polling places have been moved, some closed permanently, as we have seen the Voting Rights Act be struck down. And so while that bill waits the Senate, which isn't going to be convened until after the election, we're seeing people struggle. We're seeing, you know, public transportation be reduced and taken out primarily of Black and brown neighborhoods. So as people are actually trying to mobilize to vote, they're having to determine if they're going to vote or if they're going to go to work or if they're going to try to go to school. And so transportation and the ability to move from point A to B has impacted the vote. That's why there are organizations like VEEM, Us, Take Action Mon Valley, BPEP, who are actually having to organize rides and strolls to the polls so people can exercise their, you know, civil duties and liberties to actually vote in this election. So it's very hard, it's very difficult. We also have to worry about voter intimidation at the polls. People have been turned away, ballots have gone missing. So everything right now is a cluster, but we're trying, you know, we're showing up in record numbers. Hopefully other communities do the same.
One thing I wanted to, you know, ask is like, Jasira, you've kind of been like one of the most globally renowned amplifiers of social justice. And through this election right now, what are we looking at? Let's say Trump wins, right? Miracle has said something dope last night that we still have to show up regardless of who wins. Like Black people still have to show up. We still have to do the work. What are people going to be looking at the Black community for if Trump wins?
I don't know. Maybe we're gonna be looking to. Is 50 Cent, Lil Wayne gonna get like some type of?
They're gonna give us a theme song.
I don't know. Maybe gotta look. No, I mean, I always think about. It was a meme that happened, and it was like the hood, and it was like a project building,
right?
And it was like the hood under Clinton, the hood under Bush, the hood under Obama, the hood under Trump, and it was the same building. And so I think for us, I mean, at our community, I mean, we survive and we've been surviving, you know what I'm saying? And I think like we're going to show up regardless. I mean, for one hood, we're going to show up the same way we've been showing up for the last 4 years, you know what I'm saying? With resistance, with building, with making sure like locally that we have, community power and community initiatives that are happening locally on the ground, because the presidency is important, but it's also only one part of it because it's a federal election. We have city elections, state election, county elections, and oftentimes those local elections affect our lives more in our day-to-day interaction than what's happening nationally. You know what I'm saying? So although we hoping for a different outcome than Trump winning, it's not going to change the direction of what one hood has been doing and what we got to do. Regardless of who wins, we're still facing a global pandemic. We're still facing unprecedented unemployment. We're looking at an uptick in COVID to the point where, some have suggested we might have to shut down again as we go into flu season, cold season, and all that other stuff. And so I think for us, it's like we got to get into the action of determining for ourselves in our community what we want to see, in our own lives. And I think that's the work that, One Hood has been about and going to be about, in terms of looking at these oppressive systems. Because if Biden becomes president, guess what? It's not going to change police brutality. It's not like the police is going to be like, oh, you know what? Biden is president. We're just going to stop whooping on people. We're going to stop shooting people. That's not going to change. It's not going to change our local situation. Is it going to change the fact that we're the worst city in America for Black women? Where we just had, these men that attacked these Black women at this gas station, only getting a $300 fine. That happened in Pittsburgh. You know what I'm saying? That happened in a city that's supposedly run by progressive Democrats, right? And so we got to still get busy and still be on the job of dealing with what we got to do here. And really, I think regardless of who gets elected, that's the more important work. What's happening here on the ground. Pittsburgh. We just had a report about the school and how the racial gap in the Pittsburgh public school is not closing, and it's one of the worst. We got a lot of work to do right here in Pittsburgh, y'all.
Absolutely. And that, you said something that kind of made me want to ask Treble this question. Is like, creativity is transient, right? Mm-hmm. And the pandemic really hampered a lot of Black artists' creativity. And we weren't able to really, and I think throughout the pandemic, people look to artists in a way that they've never looked to artists before, is to kind of take your mind off of things. And you had said something to me before while we're in quarantine. It's like, we're not living life. We're just experiencing things. We're just experiencing our daily events. It's something you phrased it real eloquently. And like, how did you navigate the quarantine, the pandemic, everything as a creative, someone who literally thrives off life experiences, and you weren't able to do that anymore?
So at first it was hard. I wasn't able to create like I usually create because, like you said, we weren't living life. So there wasn't really anything to create off of. But what the pandemic did do that was kind of like cool was it gave us kind of an opportunity to start creating what life will look like from here on out. You know what I'm saying? It gave us as artists an opportunity to create what art would look like. Because as performing artists, it's like we kind of get a lot of our, salaries or pays from performances. And we had to figure out a way to kind of like still talk to our audience in a way that was engaging. And we had to find a way to create these new digital platforms that we're starting to see. People started using Zoom more. We're on StreamYard now, which is something we probably wouldn't have thought of prior to the pandemic. If it wasn't for the pandemic, I feel like we'd still be, business as usual. But because of the pandemic, we kind of had to like take our creativity and use it in a different medium. And now instead of creating music, we're creating platforms, we're creating ways to still thrive as artists in this pandemic.
Yeah, absolutely. And, one of the things that we were able to do is Hood, we were able to put on a lot of live performances in different areas. And it worked extremely well in our favor. And kind of like Trouble said, it kind of gave us a way to pivot around this whole new normal. So we're going to segue into a performance right now. This is me off of my album, The Kid with the Golden Arms. This is a song called Hood Visa. This is a live performance we did at City of Asylum. And check it out.
This song was extremely personal for me. It's called Hood Visa. I think growing up, whether you're immigrant, whether you're first gen, even just the standard Black American experience, we all kind of navigate the world different. And I always like to say that Blackness is universal, but our experiences aren't. And this record was important to me because as someone who speaks Arabic, as a Muslim, I got to speak Arabic on here. The brother on the hook, Vic Mutama, is from Kenya. He got to speak Swahili on here, and we both do work in English on here too. So I think this is kind of reflective of the immigrant and the Black experience, as Swahili and Arabic are sister languages, and English being the lingua franca between the two countries. I thought this was a dope record to kind of just talk about some personal experiences. And so I hope you enjoy it. It's called Hood Visa. You ain't come up like we did. Oh no, you ain't come up like we did. You get it different America depending on your color and passport. Who we praising? We hell raising, our parents invented our struggle. We felt hatred, shell cases, round to man Antoine. Used to fell from pale faces, cooked up coke, it smelled fragrant. Free lunch, got a stale flavor. We still ate it though. My mom made tapes off the radio, she tried to shoot my dad. What we supposed to tell the neighbors, yo? It's really a funny story. Nothing was hunky-dory, all three of us was raised different. Section 8 niggas. Rollerblading in these streets of raised, eating pizza at Hayes Kitchen. Coming home late, I'm trying not to wake. Niggas climbing on the roof to get in my room. Scrape skin, my face twitching. Electric cut, summer before I bounced. The year was 2000, I don't remember the amount. My father drunk something in the house and punching me in my mouth. I had to do for myself. Who couldn't help became ruthless as hell. Caught between the roof of a cell. That was my tipping point. I turned from ball points to hollow points. At 14 years old, clapping at niggas on roll. 14 years old, had to find a way in through the back door. Different color money, your passports. Getting more than we asked for, You ain't come up like we did. I will go. Oh no, you ain't come up like we did. Villa Sisi. And you see me and my niggas, we had to find a way in through the back door. Oh, you ain't come up. You get a different America depending on your color and passport. The second verse is about my mom. Youthful arrogance had me feeling invincible. Denise gave me my temper, but made sure that I was sensible until I started fighting in school. She slapped the principal. No one can believe that shit. Yo, it was wild. The 90s was a hell of a time. I was a child. It's difficult trying to talk about my parents and smile, but What can you do? The time wearing it now. Me and my father started speaking. We aware our sounds. Yo, ain't that some shit? The Raptors won the chip right after my mom passed. And I ain't speak to none of her family. Fuck that. Inna lillahi wa inna ilahi rajoon. My salama, my mama was gone too soon. We ain't speak for a year before she passed, but I hold that L. There's some things I'm still sitting on that I can never tell. Stuff for love.
And we back
Welcome
in trouble
back.
to the wardrobe switch.
I felt left out. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So I had to
nah.
switch it up.
I'm the only one not in one hood gear, so it's like.
I mean,
but
we're
got
behind
the-
you, so
yeah,
it's
yeah,
okay.
I got the banner behind me. Yeah. So as we wait for Jasiri to come back, we can talk about, creativity in transit and just like being Black in the city right now in transit. So, that record was specifically important to me because I wrote it in a time where, life moves, right? And my mom had just passed and I had wrote that record, and we had seen people die throughout the pandemic, and we had seen people murdered, throughout the pandemic, and, navigating this experience as a Black person. Adam Clayton Powell said we have everything from charcoal to chalk with Black people. And we all were kind of forced to see Ahmaud Arbery and Breonna Taylor and George Floyd compounded on top of each other while we were just really relegated to our living rooms. And we only had, we couldn't turn away from everything. We had our social media, we had our digital media, we had our laptops and all of our devices broadcasting the reality of Black people across the globe simultaneously. And for just a little bit of time, whether you were locked up or you were upset because you had to wear a mask, or upset because you weren't able to go out to work or go out to restaurants, go out to bars, for a little bit of time, you got a fraction of what it was like to witness and experience segregation. And people didn't know how to handle that. And you're looking at this Black experience like maybe it wasn't hyperbole. Maybe Black people were telling the truth the whole time. And that's kind of what we started to see, is people were listening to the Black experience, looking at the Black community, looking at the culture, looking at our neighborhoods, and finally starting to listen and pay attention in a way that they never did. And that really manifested all over the world in protests that exploded for George Floyd. And all four of us were extremely, what's the word I want to use right now? Involved. I think involved is a little light though. I don't think that gives enough credence to what we're doing. Present. Yeah, very present for this situation. And we experienced specifically in Pittsburgh, 16 consecutive weeks worth of protests that the young people and the organizers of this city put on. And Jasiri, how did that look to you in a city? Oh, now my Siri's coming. Every time I say your name, Siri answer me. But how did for you who's been organizing and on these front lines for so long, had you ever seen anything like that in the city of Pittsburgh? Did you think Pittsburgh was going to do something like 16 weeks of protests for the murder of another unarmed Black man?
Well, I mean, I think, it was interesting. I mean, when, Minnesota went up like it did, I think, we felt like it'd probably be some type of solidarity protest in Pittsburgh, but I don't think nothing like what we saw. And, for the organizers of that original event, and I believe it was the Pittsburgh Freedom Fund that organized that first event. I mean, it was thousands of people in Pittsburgh. I remember, trying to, circle around the whole event, and it was, so many people out there. So many people came out to express their, frustration and their anger with this situation. And then to see, Black, young, and educated, who reached out to us and said, hey, we want to protest indefinitely. And I remember that first protest at Bakery Square because we were late. Me and you came late, and it was like, thousands of people there. So it was, I didn't, to be, if I'm honest, I didn't expect Pittsburgh to really show up like that. I didn't expect, the white people to really come out like they did and support. I didn't expect, people to start, holding up and lifting up, Black-led organizations like One Hood. It was really kind of surprising to me, and part of me feels almost like, I don't want to say bad in a sense, but I almost feel like, man, like it's sad to me that all this had to happen, before we started to recognize, like, Black people and our importance to what's happening right now, whether it's in this city or nationally or globally. And so, yeah, I was surprised at even the amount of support that we've gotten as an organization in One Hood over the past few months has been, surprising, pleasantly surprising. But at the same time, we just had a brother get killed in Philadelphia, a brother who had a knife, who was mentally ill. And now Philadelphia is on fire. And there's going to be a solidarity march today that Black Young and Educated is doing at Freedom Corner. And so the movement still continues. The push continues, although it's getting a little colder and a little rainier in Pittsburgh. Folks are still organizing, and we still need, and I think the last thing I'll say is, the disappointing part is that we have not seen the systematic changes, particularly here in Pittsburgh, that we have been calling for. We've been calling for real, reform in the police. We've been calling for real changes, and we have not seen those. And it seems like we have a political and leadership in Pittsburgh that is not interested. Maybe, they like the symbolic change. They like to, walk through Homewood.
Yeah, that petting zoo, that petting zoo shit they did. Yeah,
but not, not interested in actual systematic change, or in that creative, innovative idea and thinking that Treble had referenced when he talked about creativity. I'm not interested in that as well. So we got to get about that.
That's a fact. I wanted to ask Miracle something. We were featured indirectly on Being Black in Pittsburgh on WTAE, but they didn't use our segment. But Miracle, you had said something at the beginning when they were recording, when they were interviewing us, and you're our Black woman right now, right? You get me? As Pittsburgh is the worst, as Pittsburgh is the worst city in the country to be a Black woman, in the worst metropolitan area for Black people, what is your experience like navigating Pittsburgh as a Black woman, and how has it been for you since the summer?
You're muted.
It's hard. I'll be honest. It's hard. It has been hard, but the benefit has been meeting so many different organizers and hanging out with different organizations, like a One Hood. I always shout out like Grandma Bees because they are like my second home in the city. But it was hard here. Like, I came here for law school and I suffered a lot of discrimination and racism and sexism when I was working in the field. And so I really was very despondent and shocked about how bad it was and how people really seemed not to care and just accepted that Black women were just mistreated. And this was like the experience. Every time I talk to other Black attorneys in the community, we all have stories about being mistaken for clients, having our qualities questioned, being told to be the secretaries in the meeting, or just being ignored and undervalued. But out of that has come a lot of resiliency and solidarity of organizers who've just been working together. It's like, we're just going to create the changes that we see, that we want to see in Pittsburgh. We dropped our Got 12 demands earlier in the summer because we wanted something to change. We knew that this was the time to be creative and innovative. We knew that this was the time that people were going through a seemingly enlightenment period where they were researching, and for some folks experiencing anti-Blackness for the first time in their lives. And so like, okay, we're going to take this and we're going to run with it, and we're going to keep running. We're going to keep fighting and pushing. It's hard, but at the end of the day, life is hard. So we just take the punches, roll with it, get up and keep moving. And that's what we're doing. There's so many organizations, the Flowers for Black Girls project that Becca Zale is doing, Cocapreneur with Camille, the Midwife Project. There's so many things out there. The Brown Mamas, collective that where Black and brown women said, you know what, we're not going to take this anymore. We have Black trans women leading organizations from Sisters to Trans Uniting. We have so much going on in the city because we're just moving out and about, and that's what we got to do. We mule for no one, and we're fighting for our lives and our freedom. So that's where we are.
Bars. I like that. So all three of us, Jasiri, Miracle, and I, none of us are Pittsburgh natives, right? But Treble, you're born and bred in Pittsburgh, but Jasiri and I, as someone, kind of like your senior, we got to experience Pittsburgh in a different way, kind of before this mass gentrification, before the mass exodus of, kind of everything, and Google and Amazon, everybody came in. What's been your experience kind of navigating, as Black youth in the city of Pittsburgh, because you know Pittsburgh like the back of your hand, you get me?
Yeah. My experience has been very dynamic, to say the least. So the first thing I want to note is that, like, this is the first time in a long time that I felt unsafe to the point of contemplating buying firearms. You know what I'm saying? And I haven't felt that way since, youngin' literally seeing dudes get murdered up the street from my house type shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's been a very long time since I felt this feeling, and it's very interesting feeling. You know what I'm saying? I didn't think I'd feel this feeling as soon as I did. I thought that, like, I wasn't going to feel this way until I had money to protect. You know what I'm saying? But, like, now it's like, yo, like, I could easily lose my life like that. You know what I'm saying? With no remorse, no regard. So it's like, I'd
and
rather
not for people to look like you.
Yeah.
Not for people to look like you. Yeah.
Exactly. So it's just like, that part has been very interesting. But me, on a personal note, there's just one very specific incident that I look back to a lot when I look at my Black experience. And it was when I was in college. I didn't last too long in college, to be completely honest. But when I was in college, there was a professor I had. He was my English professor, and he was the head of the drama department. And if anyone knows me, I love drama, not like, real life drama, but like theater drama. But so I would, stop by his theater club here and there, not really saying much, just seeing how it was, kind of observing the actors and stuff like that. And I ended up having his class later on. And his class was like early as shit, I'm not gonna lie. So I was in there, hoodie up, usually sleep, because it was an English class. I didn't feel like I needed English. I had 2 years of AP English in high school. So I'm like, bro, this is a waste of my time. But I still did the work and stuff. And there was one day, I'll never forget it. We had to write essays this day. And I was like, oh yeah, this is my time in the show, bro. Like, I don't belong here. So I write this essay, I turn it in, and then he has his drama club later on. So I go to the drama club later, and I'm sitting there again. He comes up to me and he's like, yo, I graded your paper earlier. Do you mind if we talk after, this club? I was like, yeah, for sure. I'm thinking like I failed so horribly. He wants to talk to me about it. But he actually ended up driving me home. And on our drive home, he's like, I'm not going to lie to you. When you first entered my class, I didn't think that you would be the type of student that you are. And I was like, what did you think I would be? And he was like, I seen you sitting back there with your hoodie on, sleep. Thought you were just going to be another nuisance, another misfit kid. I'm like, what does a misfit kid look like? What does that mean? And he was like, the disruptive, doesn't really care. I'm like, I'm not going to lie to you. I don't really care about your class. But, you know what I'm saying? I'm here so I won't get fined. It's like, no. I basically told him, I was like, well, I'm glad that you said that, because we don't usually have a conversation about like bias, an open conversation about like the bias that we have against someone or towards someone when we first meet them. And that was the first time I had ever come face to face with white bias. You know what I'm saying? Like, I've felt it, I've seen it present in conversations, but I've never had a white male come out and tell me that like I basically shattered their bias. You know what I'm saying? He told me that like he basically laid it all on the table. He's like, yeah, like usually when I get, you know, black students, I'm not gonna lie, like they're usually the ones who are disruptive, and because it's an English class, they don't really care that much. And I'm like, I'm like, you ever think it's because of your attitudes towards them? Because like you can feel that. And it made him think in a way that I don't think he's ever been challenged before. You know what I'm saying? And from that point on, he was a completely different teacher. You know what I'm saying? So I'm coming from me being from Homewood, like that happens a lot where I'm off rip labeled as this misfit kid who might not really be the person that they then find out that I am.
The neighborhood legend Shaheem.
You feel me? You know what I'm saying? They don't expect me to pull up on NLS shit and speak anything of worth. They usually, because like I'm more calm, I'm more quiet, I'm more collected. I don't really demand attention my way. So when I come in, people don't know what to expect. You know what I'm saying? They don't know what they're about to get into. So it's like, I wouldn't say I don't blame them, because it's still a shitty bias when you think about it, because it's like I'm black with hand tattoos, so automatically people think I have gang relations and shit like that. But then they hear me speak and they're like, hey, we ain't gotta talk about that here. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but I will say that doesn't change. When I had straight hair and my suit, I was still treated the same way. Bias is bias, and that's why it's like you just show up as your authentic self, because they're going to disregard you either way. So you might as well throw out your representative, go into these rooms, be yourself, talk your shit, and like go home.
Yeah, I mean, I have this song that I wrote where like I'm gonna just say it explicitly. It's called Nigga, you know what I'm saying? And like I wrote it from a standpoint of like the hook goes, I could shine like the sun my mama said I was, or show him I'm a nigga. And then I switch it and I say, nah, I'm gonna shine like the sun my mama said I was, and show them I'm a nigga. You know what I'm saying? And like what I mean by that is like I'm gonna show them that like I do come from the gutter. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm not gonna code switch. I made a pact with myself to never code switch. I'm just gonna, like Miracle said, just show up as myself. You know what I'm saying? Like now I'm on upswell with a do-rag on. You feel me? Like
facts me that. Facts me that, bro. Facts me that.
You know what I'm saying?
So you said something. So you know, we've all been in very professional spaces, and you know, One Hood, you know, all four of us has kind of emerged as these public figures, right? The series already been one, and you know, we're all kind of starting to see this light. But I had a very interesting relationship with code switching, because I never went to university. I barely graduated high school. You know, I was locked up. And then, you know, I got out of the music industry and became a full-time educator, like a proper public school teacher. Somehow I was able to finesse my way in. I performed the koalas, as we call it in Toronto. It's kind of like, you know, like a trick, and was able to kind of get in it. And I had my own classroom, a K-8 classroom, where I was teaching physical education. And at the beginning, I thought I had to code switch, because these white people, as I thought, were more qualified than me. They had degrees and credentials on paper that looked great, but they didn't know shit. They didn't know nothing about our culture. They didn't know anything about our children. So within like the first year of me being an educator, I dashed that whole code switching thing out the room, because I realized I was in this room because of who I am and what I've done, and the path that I have walked to get into this area. And my children are going to relate to me better than going to be able to relate to some girl from the suburbs that's teaching them history or whatever they teaching. It's not to say that the education aspect isn't important, but when you're so culturally disconnected and you have that biases towards your students already, they're already writing you off the same way you're writing them off. So it was more important for me to be even more authentic in these spaces, to speak like I'm speaking right now, because our children don't have that in school. Our children don't have anybody to listen to them, look like them, and talk to them the same way that they taught throughout the ends organically. So it was like it wasn't that I felt self-important, but the children let me know how important we were, you know, how important I was to them, because it's like, yo, don't nobody talk to us like Mr. Farouk. Ain't nobody we gonna be able to relate to like Mr. Farouk. You get me? Mm-hmm. So me being in these spaces, kind of like you said, is like I've seen these teachers write off these children off the bat. They blame the parents, they blame their environments, they blame everybody except for themselves for the children acting the way they acted. And you know, that's just kind of like what we experience in the education aspect. And you know, we just talked about earlier in the show, the racial achievement gap in Pittsburgh Public School has not been closed. This is one of the worst educational institutions that I've ever seen in my life. And we have children right now, specifically during the pandemic, when it hit, that less than 30% had access to the internet to learn. And Pittsburgh Public Schools released their statement that they were closing school on the internet. They didn't even send a letter home. So, you kind of see this lopsided approach that the biases is already established. So that's what it's like for us to navigate these spaces in Pittsburgh. And, we only have an hour to talk about it. We have to live this every single day.
Yeah, that's that transit, you know what I'm saying? And that's like, one thing my mom stressed to me, and my mom was a Black woman from the South Side of Chicago that went back to school. When my pops left, graduated valedictorian from Roosevelt University, and went on to become a nuclear engineer. And one of the things she would tell me all the time is like, you got to work twice as hard. As a Black person. And this is a Black woman that she probably had to work like 3 times, 4 times as hard, to get to the position that she got to. But that was like, for us, it was like, she was like, you gotta work twice as hard to get that like same amount of respect and support. You know what I mean? And a lot of times, as we, would do the work as one hood and not getting support, I would be like, I feel like, well, what more do we got to do? Like we're doing all of these things in our community. I mean, you see, like we've been around, since 2005, 6. What more do we have to prove? It was, to me, it was kind of like what Miracle said, that them biases, and it was like this idea that like somehow if you supported us or gave money to us, we gonna all show up with some one hood chains. I don't know what folks may have believed what was going to happen. But that's that, it's overcoming those biases, and so we have to always continually show like a high degree of level of excellence to even get like on our radar. You know what I'm saying? And that'd be the thing. It's like somebody had put a tweet out that kind of went viral that said like, "Lord, give me the confidence of a mediocre white man." But we see like that mediocrity, like I mean, you could be a Amy Coney Barrett and just be a mediocre, white lady, and now you're on the Supreme Court. And like, and I would say this to people. I would be like, George Bush, like had the, his dad had to get him into Yale, was basically just a straight up average student. You know what I'm saying? Barack Obama was like a constitutional scholar. I mean, this dude had to be like the best Black person. Somebody put something out yesterday. They was like, Barack Obama was like Harvard, married 28 years, to the same woman, 2 children, but he was like the Antichrist.
Yeah.
It's like this, wow, you know what I'm saying? Like hanging out with Jeffrey Epstein, 3 different wives, 5 different kids, 3 different women, and he's like God's anointed. But it just showed you like this is clearly like how white supremacy works. And so when we travel, oh no, you good, Trouble. When we travel, that's what we have to navigate. And our transit is white supremacy that's everywhere. And that'll see, just like you said, look at Trouble and see his hand tattoo and automatically say, oh, you got tattoos on your hands. And you're from Homewood, you're a gang member, you're a thug, you're this, and not get to experience like the creative genius that the brother comes with. You know what I'm saying? Because as soon as you saw him, before he even opened his mouth, oh, who's this Black girl with raspberry hair? Like, oh, who's this good ratchet? And you don't even, before you even hear the brilliance that's coming out of Miracle's mouth, you've already passed the level of judgment on us. That's also always like the transit that we have to navigate every day of our lives.
There was a question in the chat that I wanted to respond to, is like, how do we navigate Pittsburgh without changing or staying true to ourselves? Because we don't have a choice. And that's it. Even if we wanted to, like, we don't have that luxury because we represent so many other people. And there's a question I kind of wanted to throw out there to everybody. Activism has taken a completely new form. And I think that's something with activism, as I'm starting to learn it, and Jasira, you a lot more educated in it than I am, is like, what does activism look like how's it changes, right?
Well,
How-
I would before you ask. I mean, you do have a choice because I mean, it's black folks every day, you know.
That's a fact.
And the cool, you know, we are our own entity. I mean, we're one hood, we're our own thing.
Yeah.
But we do have the luxury. You know, you come into our office, it's us there. So you know, to dress out. We, you know, we hired trouble with the tattoos. Like, you know what I mean? Like, we like, hey, bro, we want you to work here. So it's like, and we want people to be themselves. But if you're working in corporate America, and I say that to say when I was a mortgage broker, I tell people like my business card said J. Smith, because I knew if I put Jasiri on my card, somebody would judge me. Oh, he's foreign, he's different. And so there are folks that are in these corporate places that do have to, like, not, you know, unfortunately, because of white supremacy, they can't be their full selves oftentimes in these positions. So that's really a luxury that we have as One Hood. So, and we're gonna be hiring soon if you want to come work with One Hood. You know what I'm saying? Be your full self. Like, come on.
Yeah.
That is funny because my card said ML Jones, because like everybody kept saying Miracle Jones sounds like a black exploitation film, and so people would never know if I was like an actual person. And coming from Pittsburgh, I don't have a 412 number, so people don't know if I'm like a real person when I call them for business or whatever. Wow. It's funny, but talking about the bias, I don't know if y'all paid attention to like when because Jasiri brought her up when Justice Amy was being confirmed. When she talked about her children, she talked about how smart her biological children were. And for her adopted children, she talked about how like her son had a good attitude and her daughter was very strong. So when we talk about like these biases and how they show up, it's not necessarily that people are like, ooh, Black people can't do A, B, and C. It's like you don't even give us like the benefit of the doubt. And so it is what it is. That's why I always tell Black people, be your own biggest fan. Stand yourself when nobody else will. Because I remember when we had a conversation, you were like, One Hood just started getting like local support. Like people just start, like we did all this stuff. And then we had controversies because people don't think that Black organizations know how to handle financial support and money. And so that is another thing that keeps going and going and going. And so we're out here, but when we're talking about that transit, that mobility, it was Michelle Obama said you get to these tables and you realize a lot of these folks are there because of their parents and their grandparents and their connection and not necessarily their intellect. And so that's also why you got to get rid of that imposter, syndrome. Be yourself. These companies want you for something. They want you for your intellect, for what you bring to the table, for who these systems break you down and make you try to mute your Blackness. Professionalism to me is making sure you show up to do your job. It's not making sure that you have like a 3-piece suit, a time watch, the ascot, and all this other type of stuff. It is making sure you're able to carry out your duties and functions. And that is what's most important. A lot of this other stuff, I've seen CEOs with tattoos and walking into the buildings with shorts and flip-flops. Meanwhile, they're stressing you over like what type of suit you have. Don't do that. No,
that's a fact. What I wanted to kind of like let us build on before we get out of here is kind of like how activism has changed right now. We kind of seen activism get co-opted, right? And the connotation of Black people rioting and looting, but white people are protesting. White people are out here, marching for change. White people are able to walk through Homewood with cameras and all of this. But when Black people do it, it has a completely different connotation. We navigated this space as Black people. We navigated into these protest spaces, Black people, because we're being killed, we're being murdered, we're being oppressed, we're not being hired, we're being fired for having unnatural hair growth. We're told we have to code switch. But now activism has become something that's been co-opted by popular culture, thanks to, whatever you want to call the media doing with activism. But I just kind of wanted to have everybody chime in on what it was like this summer to kind of see this farce that kind of took place in the city of these activists coming out for their own agendas, because that's something we also can't own.
We can't own it, but you know what? At the end of the day, anyone can be an activist, anyone can be an organizer, because these systems come for all of us the same. What I will tell people is pick organizations and leaders that align with your own political ideology and keep all your energy there. Don't let people steal your energy. Don't let people steal your time, and don't let people steal your resources. Activism is hard. We spend a lot of our times looking at what's wrong. So we spend a lot of time carrying and holding trauma. We spend a lot of times with grieving family members. We spend a lot of times looking at what's going wrong. We spend a lot of time talking to people all throughout the world, all throughout the diaspora, about how colonialism and imperialism is impacting their lives. So what I say is find your joy, read the ancestors. You know, I've been, for the past couple of weeks, getting really heavy into like watching Brother Fred Hampton's speeches. You know, when you talk about Ice Cube and Lil Wayne, watch Brother Fred Hampton. He talks about not having a political ideology, but having access to resources. Then it gives you, you know, this capitalistic, you know, love affair that we're seeing right now. Mm-hmm. So that's what I said. Like, it was rough, you know, particularly for me, you know, going viral, dealing with that situation, having to like deal with threats and acts of violence. That was like rough, but you know, we thugged it out. We still here, you know, nothing's happened, and you gotta move safe. Activism, protest for me is disruption. You're disrupting the system. You are finding who your allies and accomplices are, and you're strategizing for freedom. It's not about the media, because the media will chew you up and spit you out. Absolutely. It's not about the fame, because these analytics come and go. There's a hot story every 3 seconds, and you know, I do. Already this morning there was another police shooting that in Kentucky that I just want to point out. So when we're talking about raising awareness and talking about people who've passed, I'm sorry, Scott, because Kevin Peterson Jr. was just murdered last night in Kentucky, and they left his body outside again for hours, like Mike Brown. So when you see people out organizing, it's also because we've talked to mayors, we've talked to leaders, we've talked to senators, and nothing has happened. People don't understand. Protest happens because, as MLK said, it is the voice of the unheard, because leadership is not doing what they're supposed to do. There's no reason 30% of your students don't have Wi-Fi access. There is no reason that Black women with all of these medical institutions, Black people who are having children are dying during childbirth. There's no reason for all this stuff happening. And so that's why people are out fighting and protesting. And that's what I want our energy and focus to be, not on the shit show, but on the reasons that we're out there and how we keep each other safe. Because at the end of the day, we keep each other safe.
Yeah, no, I agree. And, you know, just to touch on it, I think like, you know, one of the things that we've been trying to do as One Hood, particularly with the Artivist Academy, is offer, you know, mentorship to emerging activist organizations, because it's not like it's a handbook. You know what I'm saying? Oftentimes folks are upset, they're angry, rightfully so. You know what I'm saying? And just like Miracle said, not feeling like they're not heard, our issues are not being addressed. And so it's like, let's take to the streets. And, you know, sometimes, you know, we don't realize how this system is going to begin to attack us. You know, we've seen a lot of, you know, activists get hit with felony charges. You know what I'm saying? For incidents that should not be adding up to a felony. You know what I'm saying? We saw, you know, one of the marshals thrown into an unmarked van. I mean, and for an incident that he shouldn't even been arrested. I mean, he wasn't even doing anything that deserved to be arrested. So I think folks also see how like this system comes at them. And sometimes, like Miracle said, we don't know how to process this trauma. I would just say, like, check your intentions. I think like that's the biggest thing to me. What are your intentions? And this is for anybody that comes out, Black or white. Are we coming out because we have a genuine concern, because we have a genuine desire to really change things? Because, you know, we saw in that first protest specifically, folks that were coming out just to take pictures. Folks was coming out to, you know, wanted to, you know, stand on top of a burning car, whatever, in front of one and take a selfie or take a picture. You know what I'm saying? And so it's like, really, what are your intentions? Are your intentions? Because this is the thing. When you step out there, the state is recording you. the state is documenting you. You know, we show up, the police know that, hey, Farouk, hey, just
Hey, and that I just wanted to say that. Like, I just wanted to touch on that real quick. Like, you know,
they know us.
we you know, we have to weigh it. Sometimes we have families, we have people that we love, we're in relationships, you know, we have to weigh coming out of the house, and it's a pandemic. Is it worth coming out today for this?
Right.
I can not only catch COVID, I could get, you know, that I could catch a bullet, I could catch a charge, I could catch so many different things. Like, this is the space that we all exist in.
Right.
That, again, I have to say, we have put our lives on the line every single time. And Jasiri's not, you know, he might have made a joke about it, but the police know us. They know our names. I've been followed to the office. We've all received death threats. Like, this is real life for us. And it's not just, you know, some innocuous thing that we can just let it roll off the shoulders, when it's something that you constantly get, and you see other activists go missing like they do in Ferguson. You see other activists turn up lynched. You know, we have a system that, you know, we got to make sure that everybody get home safe. And, you know, we gotta keep ourselves prioritizing this. So when we're navigating as Black people in this protest space, not only are we at risk because we're protesting, but because we're Black protesters in a city that it has only 11% of Black people. So we're automatically going to stand out when we're at a protest. The Black people are going to be the easiest ones to see. We're going to be the most identifiable, and we're going to be the ones that are the most vulnerable. And that's what we've seen all summer long. And as it continues, these Black protesters, right? These Black protesters go, like, we deal with shit at the protest and when we go home, because just being Black is hard enough.
Yeah. First, I'll say free Anthony, free Ant. We're talking about what's going on in Philly, but you also got to talk about, like, the racialized violence of this. Is at the very first protest, most of the charges were dropped against white protesters. After people were arrested, people were cited in the mail. Most of the Black protesters have been arrested in their homes, had to turn themselves in, had to go to the ACJ. Well, regardless of where we stand on the ideological spectrum, there is a racialized way even which the police state engages protesters. Every time I get on a plane, I gotta be like, oh shit, am I gonna be arrested today? Like, when I get off the plane, you know, because you don't know. What people don't know, if they're indicted, don't know the investigation. We've had false charges pop up. We've had people lie and say they were assaulted when they weren't. We don't know what happened. And so look at the situation with Anthony is going on in Philly. You could actually be fully 100% innocent. You could have zero evidence against you, and still the feds are going to come and pick you up. And then you have to worry about, are people agents of the state? Or is this a continuation of COINTELPRO? Or are people just in trauma and reacting based on their trauma? So it's a lot of stuff that's going on, and you're constantly having to play. And that's why a lot of people, you know, self-medicate, have breakdowns. And that's why we also push mental health. We have the Untilt, you know, podcast happening on Thursdays at noon, because we're trying to find ways to make sure that we all survive this. You know, one hood. We're not gonna hire everybody, because some of y'all we really don't like, but we are gonna do everything that we can to support you and make sure you're okay, and make sure you have all the resources and everything that you need. Right? We move as one. We rise as one, whether we like it or not. This Blackness is making us one, and so that's why we're one hood.
One thing I want to say about the activist space that we find ourselves in now is, like, if I'm being completely honest, I never thought that I would be an activist. You know what I'm saying? Right. I always cared about Black issues, but I never thought that I'd be someone they considered an activist, because for a long time, like, all I was really trying to do was point to the humanity of Black people. And I didn't think that calling Black people human would be considered activism. You know what I'm saying? Like, it should be common knowledge, but, like, now I'm actually doing work. I said calling Black people human in my head has never been seen as activism, or shouldn't be seen as activism. I never thought that me just saying that we are human would be me being an activist. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's wild when you think about it. And I'm glad Miracle brought up COINTELPRO and stuff like that, because now that I've seen our protests kind of get co-opted, I find myself in a space of, like, if I don't know the white faces present, I'm wary. You know what I'm saying? Facts. It's like, what are y'all here for? You know what I'm saying? What is your agenda? Are you actually here with us, or are you trying to incite some shit? Or are you here just, you know, taking note of the faces that you see present. Like, what are your motives? You know what I'm saying? Now, when I interact with white people, I feel like I kind of have to like break through this barrier of like, who are you and why are you here? What are your intentions? You know what I'm saying? I kind of have to grill the subconscious a little bit more than I'd like to, because I'd like to just trust that every white person I see on the field with us has our best intention at heart. But you know what I'm saying? Historically, we see that's not always the case. You know what I'm saying? And it could also be your own people. You know what I'm saying? That's what happened with Fred Hampton.
True.
You feel me? Like, it wasn't even white people who infiltrated. They used someone black to infiltrate the Black Panthers. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
So it's just like, I'm constantly looking over my shoulder, questioning like, who's around me and why. You feel me?
Yeah, and I mean, just to I know we got to wrap up, but I mean, you know, we got a government that called us Black identity extremists. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And I mean, and locally, you know, we have a local administration that have been hostile to protesters since day one. You know, saying on one side of their mouth, Black Lives Matter, and then on the other side of their mouth, you know, talking about, well, you know, you've been in Black neighborhoods for more than Black protesters have been alive, and so that gives you some type of authority to speak to these issues over us. I mean, you know, you just had, you know, our mayor go out and say, see, you don't need a bullhorn. All you got to do is pick up the phone and call, as if, you know, calling would change, you know, okay, so we're going to call you and be like, when is this city going to be more livable for Black people and Black women specifically? Like, is that going to happen? I mean, and so I think this is the type of stuff that oftentimes we're up against when we step into this role. So I think, like you said, sometimes people do see, you know, the media comes out and you on the news and all of that, but that only lasts.
It's fleeting.
Yeah, that only lasts for so long, and it's like you really can't. I mean, there's it's not like you can live off of just doing protests. You know what I'm saying? And
Exactly.
so
It's not sustainable.
Yeah, so one of the things that we try to do, you know, at One Hood is to be like yes, we have to be out here in the community, and we're doing a rally on Sunday. You know what I'm saying? We're doing a big rally on Sunday with a national organization called Until Freedom. You know, a lot of the organizations like, you know, Alliance for Police Accountability, the Antoine Rose II Foundation, Take Action Mon Valley, we're going to be in coalition with for it. But at the end of the day, like, we also have to be community servants, and I think like to me that's the real role. We're out here protesting because we want to bring attention to real issues in our community that needs changing, but we also have to be active and on the front line of beginning to change these issues as well. So we're talking about reimagining public safety at One Hood. We're talking about, you know, we did Ask a Black Doctor last night with the Gateway Medical Society. You know, we're working on a project around education and what does the future of education look like for Allies for Children. And so we're doing this way. And I think sometimes people maybe don't know, like sometimes people look at One Hood and maybe think that that's all we do is protest. You know what I'm saying? I mean, because I mean the media shows us there, so maybe that's what you think. We're doing media. We're looking at building a different a media that speaks directly to us. Certainly, the Post Gazette and the Tribune Review don't. And so I think like sometimes people don't know the totality of the work that we're doing. And guess what? We're doing One Hood Power. We're actively involved in trying to get folks out to the elections. We're texting folks. We're doing all of this work collectively. And so if you're interested in supporting the work of One Hood, you know what I'm saying? You can go to onehood.org. You know, you could donate to One Hood directly. Or you can donate to One Hood Power, the work that we're doing up into the election. You know, feel free to do so. You know, I thought, you know, I'm Nathan, you know, I feel like we should have got sent breakfast this morning, Nathan. Right?
I was looking forward to something.
But I made myself some coffee. That's why I stepped away. But I was like, man, we should have got some sent to us. But nah, I mean, I do want to say I appreciate, you know, you and Creative Morning, because I think this is going on 2 years that we've really been in partnership with Creative Morning, and for you and the folks at Creative Morning saying, hey, not only do we want an artistic element, but we want art that speaks to the times. And the thing I like about how Creative Morning steps into the space, regardless of what speaker, is it's really oftentimes dedicated to social justice issues. And it's oftentimes folks that are coming with innovative ways of looking at things differently that are help lead us forward. So thank you, for your leadership on Creative Morning, and for you being intentional of reaching out to us to have One Hood as a partner. We really appreciate it.
I just want to say Creative Morning gave me the opportunity to say how I felt about Duolingo to their faces.
Yeah, that shit, man. Man, Duolingo was tight when we came. We ran the full
I do want to say we talked about transit. Pittsburghers for Public Transit is a local Pittsburgh organization fighting for more quality and affordable fair transit. So is that something you're interested in, please follow and volunteer and support them as well.
Yeah, definitely support and donate to the work that they're doing. Because we had bus drivers that couldn't wear a Black Lives Matter mask. That happened in the city of Pittsburgh. So folks that are doing
Penn Hills has what 1 or 2 buses. Clareton has one bus, so all the places where Black people are, transit is being reduced. So
So Pittsburgh for Public Transit, shout out to them and the great organizing work that they're doing.
We made it. Nathan said, we got here early.
Yeah.
Are we doing another performance? Or are we just rolling out? What are we doing?
We're rolling out, bro, because I got a meeting at 10. I got a meeting. Yo, my nose look real big on this screen right now.
We're still on live. I just want to make sure y'all know we still live.
That's just
I know.
That's that powerful Black nose, brother.
My nose look like an upside down Black Power fist.
Take that oxygen in, brother. Take that oxygen in, brother. That's your power.
Beyonce said that was the Negro nose, like Jackson 5.
Hey man, with my bell pepper nostrils, man. I'm proud of it.
So next time Nathan's gonna make sure we got some donuts or something.
Yep. I like sour cream donuts. Those are my favorite ones, Nate.
Okay. I'll have you guys over. I'll make some food. Basically, the only thing I eat in the morning is smoothies. So y'all can come over and I'll pick up something in the blender. But I want to say thanks. On behalf
of Creative Mornings from Nathan's house.
We miss Nathan's house, man. Nathan, your house.
Yeah, neighbor's house is popping, man.
The hangout spot. You know what I'm saying? I haven't been there in a while.
Yeah. There's nobody coming over.
Yeah.
COVID killed.
We have to quarantine. What did Kim say? For 2 weeks.
Yeah, quarantine for 2 weeks and then go to a private island. That's what we need to do.
Our private island will be Nathan's house, or we can pretend just for a moment that everything is normal.
For real, guys, thanks so much for taking over. And these last couple of years have been really, really instructive to me and to my Creative Mornings team and our audience, which is really predominantly white. And having this partnership where we've been able to, as you said, Jasiri, infuse not just the art, but also the activism to learn alongside you guys. When, like I kind of said in the beginning, when this whole month after month doing these virtual events came around, it was starting to feel really dry, and it just felt like rather than queuing up a conversation with a particular individual, we've been wanting to just hear from your whole team. So it was really rad that you guys took a full hour of your morning to be with us, and thank you for that.
Mm-hmm. Of course.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah.
Sure.
Thank you. So is that it? Are you closing us out?
I'm closing me out. Wrap on me.
Yeah, we're going. Peace.
I just want to shout out both of my moms.
Yeah.
Both of my moms are in the comments, you know what I'm saying? My white mom, my blood mom. You know what I'm saying? Thank y'all for tuning in. Thank everybody who tuned in.
Absolutely.
You feel me?
And Sunday at 4 p.m. at Freedom Corner, we're doing a rally. Get out to vote, dealing with the issues, of course, in solidarity with Walter Wallace. Actually, Black Young Educator has a rally today, solidarity rally at 5 p.m. at Freedom Corner. Please support them and come out on Sunday. We're going to have food, we're going to have music, and we're going to have solidarity with Until Freedom and the Antoine Rose II Foundation, APA, Take Action Mon Valley. A lot of other good folks are going to be joining us, so we'll see you there.